Hi, Hi YouTube, this is Mark from Python for Trading here, and today I came with a video suggestion. A lot of people on my Instagram and my Telegram were messaging me about a Raspberry Pi self-hosting server I made, and I have this running for about maybe 100 days now. So what made me want to buy Raspberry Pi 4 is that I came to the realization that I'm lucky enough where I got the Elon Musk, like Tesla Starlink internet service. So if you guys don't know what that is, it's a very high speed internet, satellite internet by Elon Musk Starlink, and this is only available for like Canadians and only some Americans that are in the northern states. So typically in Canada we have really bad internet, and the only decent options are very expensive and they're kind of a scam. So if I was already paying for really bad internet and I'm also paying a VPS like $30-40 a month, why I'm spending so much money? Why don't I just combine the two, since now I have a good internet connection, and now I could have like a really cheap way to host a self-sufficient like trading server. So that's going to be the objective of this video, is to set up a Raspberry Pi 4 for you to trade, hypothetically, ideally Python, a script, or maybe a Node.js script of whatever you decide to make. I'm just going to show how I personally went about configuring my Raspberry Pi 4. Okay, so to begin with, obviously we would need a Raspberry 4. I'm just gonna put this in the webcam here, and okay, let me just switch out a fresh SD card. So I have another micro SD card here. So this has a fresh installation of Ubuntu server, and that's what I recommend everyone to use because Ubuntu is really easy to use for everyone, and I don't like a graphical user interface with the Raspberry Pi because I feel like at some point we will see like the computer could freeze if there's like a graphical user interface. So if it's just a terminal kind of like no GUI, you're gonna be able to trade pretty much infinitely as long as the Raspberry Pi is plugged in the wall. Okay, so now my Raspberry Pi is booting up. So this is, like I said, a fresh install, so it will ask for a username and password. So while the Raspberry Pi is thinking, I'm going to ask you guys to follow me on YouTube, follow my Instagram more importantly, and follow me on GitHub, and you'll see a lot more content coming nowadays that I have a lot more free time. So my Raspberry Pi is booting. It's a first boot, so it might take a little bit longer than usual, but so the login username is going to be called Ubuntu, Ubuntu, and I believe the password is also Ubuntu, Ubuntu, and I press enter. You're only required to change your password immediately, administrator enforced. So now we have to enter a new password. So we have to re-enter Ubuntu as your current password, Ubuntu, and we have to enter a new password, so it's going to be like a complicated password that needs numbers and caps and symbols. So I'm just going to put in a password that I have in mind. So I'm just putting in my password, and now it's going to ask me to retype in this password. So that's what I'm going to do, and hopefully I did not make any typos. So I think now the computer's thinking, okay, good. So we see we're able to log in. So okay, literally like the first thing you have to do, the most important thing, is you have to connect your Raspberry Pi to the internet. So I'm gonna use Wi-Fi, but if you have Ethernet, you're gonna save yourself a step. But I'm assuming most people are gonna use Wi-Fi like me. So you have to enter in a specific command that will make the Raspberry Pi connect to the Wi-Fi. So I am going to, it's a kind of a long kind of set of string, like it's a long command, but I'm going to type this out, and it's also going to be in the YouTube comments. So the first thing we have to type in the window is this command, sudo su, and I'm going to press enter. So what this ends up doing is we are now going to become the super user. We're going to have super user permissions for all the commands you're about to type in next. So now we actually have to establish the the command to connect to the Wi-Fi. So I'm going to pause the video, and I'm going to return once I typed out this command. Okay, so I returned and I typed out the whole command. As we see, it's a very large command, and anything you type in wrong will result in the command not working, so you have to just pay attention, double check your work when you're typing this into the Raspberry Pi terminal. Also, the only thing that's worth noting is the only thing you're going to change on your end is your SSID and your Wi-Fi password. You're gonna change the information that I have here. So Starlink is my Wi-Fi like username, like what my iPhone sees, what my laptop sees. So it sees Starlink, but for you, it's gonna be your Wi-Fi name. And then Praise Elon is my Wi-Fi password, but for you, it's gonna be something different. So you just have to just adjust the information accordingly to what is there, and just remember that the username, like the SSID, needs to be inside quotations, and then the password does not need to be in quotations. So I'm going to press enter, and I'm going to let the computer think, and I'm going to return to you. Okay, so we do see that despite saying like there's some errors at the top, we were eventually able to establish a connection. So to check if you have a connection or not, you just have to type in wget. I made it caps by accident. Let me turn off my caps locks. So wget, and I'm going to just type in an address. So Google, for example. So I'm just going to type in www.google.com, and I'm going to press enter. And now we're able to see that we were able to connect to google.com and take the contents of the HTML there. So we can just cat what google.com says. So it's going to be some large file, I would imagine. So yeah, like that is what is on google.com. So we're able to establish a connection and like web scrape to that. So that's how we know. Just use wget. So now we are connected to the internet. That's literally the so now you can actually use your Raspberry Pi. So one thing I want to quickly address is how we can automatically log in into our Raspberry Pi. So what I'm talking about is every time Raspberry Pi reboots, instead of typing in the username and password, the Raspberry Pi will just automatically log in into the Ubuntu user, and this is what will make your Raspberry Pi completely like remote and portable. Like as long as you don't actually have to physically log in on the Raspberry Pi, then we can guarantee like our scripts will automatically run on the boot in the future, like in the event like if we lost power or if we had to unplug a Raspberry Pi and plug it back in, we will know guaranteed that a Raspberry Pi will automatically log in by itself, and then we have a lot more power and flexibility on Raspberry Pi. So in order to do this, I see we have to install a tool here, and since we are connected to the internet, we will just have to type in sudo apt install and then min getty. So I'm just going to install this. It might ask for my password. Okay, I guess it doesn't. Okay, so it's just automatically going to install. So then I see we just have to make a small change on a file. Okay, so what we got to do now is type in sudo, sudo. So sudo means ultimate permissions, right? And then now we're going to type in the command. So the command we're going to do is called nano, which is a text editing file program. And now we got to type in a file we're going to be changing. So I'm just referring to this website here. Okay, so I'm now typing in etc. Okay, and now I'm typing system. Oh, I'm in caps, SYST. So if you see, I'm pressing the tab button, and we're able to see that Linux literally fills in the rest of the files I wanted it to fill for me. So I'm going to type in system, SYS, and press tab. You see it types out system for me. Now I'm going to type in getty, GETTY, and now I'm going to type in the and symbol, and now I press tab again, and we saw it typed out all that. So now I just got to type in override, override .conf, and I'm going to press enter. So now I got to type in a service tag. So it's going to be the word service inside a square bracket here. So SERVICE. I'm going to close the square bracket, and now we saw it lighted up to the blue color, which is good. So now we got to type in these two lines here, EXECSTART equals, and now that doesn't equal anything. So this is the first line. So And now the second line is going to be the same thing, EXECSTART equals, and then dash, and then I guess this copy what I'm typing, sbin, yes, bin, okay, min getty. So that's the program we just previously installed, and now we're going to type in auto login, and then we're going to put in our username, which is Ubuntu, and now we're going to type in the argument no clear, so dash dash no clear, and we are now going to type in %I. And this is what I did on my Raspberry Pi. So now is the tricky part. So now we're in the text editor. We need a saver file. So we have to hold down Control X, and we have to type in yes to save the modified buffer. And now we got to press enter. And now to double check if this was saved, we're going to press the up on the arrow key, and we'll see that's the line that was previously typed in. And we can press enter. And now we see when the command loads again that it is in fact what's in the file. So now we know that that's in the file. What we can do is now we have to restart a we actually have to restart a daemon loader. So that means that what I'm talking about is, so basically we made a systemd file. If you don't know what a systemd file is, a systemd file is a startup process that it's like one of the first lines of code that's going to run when our computer's restarting. So that's how we're able to log in. So I'm going to type in the command system, SYSTEM, systemctl, daemon reload, and hopefully there's no errors. Okay, so I've got to type in my password again, so that's what I'm going to type in, pep. So now it was authenticated. So so the first thing I highly recommend is to install SSH on your Raspberry Pi. So why do you want to use SSH? SSH is basically a way for us to remotely connect to the Raspberry Pi, and we can actually use like our physical like laptop or desktop, and we can like copy and paste commands on the Raspberry Pi, and that would save so much time over manually typing a lot of things. So that's what I'm going to do in this video, and I recommend you to do this in video as well. It's going to take so much, you're going to save so much time just installing SSH. So what do we do to install SSH? We have to install a okay, we're going to find out what we need to type in. I know if I type in ifconfig, it's going to recommend me to install so I have to install apt install nettools. So I need to type in sudo apt install nettools, and what this will do is it will install this basically this we're going to find out our local IP address, which is what we want. Okay, good. So now if I were to type in, so I'm going to type in this command again, and I'm going to type in address, we would see it's going to give it a bunch of information, but I do see right there like on the WLAN 0, we see that like on the second line, inet 192.168.2.76. So this is my Raspberry Pi's local IP address. So from another computer now, I can SSH into this this Raspberry Pi. So actually, let me see if SSH is installed. That's a good place to check. So if I type SSH and I press enter, okay, we do see that is installed as well. One other thing I want to try and install right now is okay, it's called NMCL. So I'm just going to type this in, NMCLI. So NM client. So okay, they recommend installing it as a snap. So I'm just what I'm going to do. I'm going to do snap. Now let's do apt. Let's go sudo apt install, and then network manager. Okay, network dash manager, and pressing enter. And I'm going to say yes to install this. And now, hopefully we will see it's installing. Okay, very good. So what we're installing right now is basically, it's going to be a command line utility where instead of, so if the Raspberry Pi were to boot off, we would actually have to type in that really long command from earlier in the video where for the Wi-Fi, like that really humongous line. So what this utility does is basically, now if we were to re-establish an internet connection, like we could reboot a Raspberry Pi and we could re-establish internet connection, and then it will remember it for next time we reboot our computer. So this is what I use to always connect to the internet. So in order to do this, I believe I'm just going to, I am now going to type in my terminal NMTUI, and hopefully this would work. So perfect. Now we could say we could edit a connection, and that's exactly what I'm going to do. I'm going to edit a connection. Actually, sorry, I'm going to press the back button. Let me activate a connection. Okay, good. So there's a bunch of lists of our Wi-Fi we see. So I'm going to press enter on the one that is for me. And now we are going to now type in our password. So that's what I'm going to do. I'm going to resume after I typed in my password, and hopefully this was successful for me. So now we see I am connecting, and it looks like it was successful. So now to get out of this program, I'm going to press maybe the tab button. I'm going to now press OK. Nope, I'm going to tab again. It's really confusing, this UI. Okay, quit. Okay, good. So let me get out of this, Control L, clear my screen. Now let's try typing in, let's type in wget we just typed in earlier. So I'm going to try this again. And now we do see that the screen is different this time. We do see that we were successful. So now let's actually use SSH and connect to our Raspberry Pi remotely from now on. So I want to copy and paste a bunch of commands off GitHub and for my computer, and this will significantly make installing Python and other utilities so much faster in the future on Raspberry Pi. So